During a recent budget debate, the new Minister of Finance, Fable Williams, made an incredible revelation about bauxite earnings. Jamaica has gone from receiving $180 million in 1974, which is around 1.2 billion bucks in today's money, to expecting to receive around $5 million this year. When annual revenues have fallen by over $1 billion, an explanation is obviously needed. But there wasn't one, because the intention of the minister was to lambast the introduction of the bauxite levy as a failed socialist experiment. However, her history lesson provided further damning evidence that Jamaica is operated as a vehicle to make money for foreign investors.
The bauxite levy. Madam Speaker, we are projecting to receive $812 million in bauxite levy. I know the opposition loves bauxite levy because it was Michael Manley-led government who, after all, took on the transnational bauxite companies and imposed the 1974 bauxite levy. As the history was written, in May 1974, Prime Minister Michael Manley announced that Jamaica would repeal previous agreements with the bauxite companies and impose a production levy on all bauxite either exported from or processed in Jamaica. Madam Speaker, anyone can read the history books about how that turned out. Revere Bauxite Company closed its shutters little more than a year later on August 19, 1975. Reynolds folded and left Jamaica in 1984. Alcoa also temporarily closed its gates in Clarendon on February 6, 1985. Yes, Madam Speaker. Yes, Madam Speaker. Jamaica did get increased earnings from the bauxite levy, which went from US $19.2 million in 1973 to a whopping US $180 million in 1974. But, Madam Speaker, the levy also moved the cost of Jamaican bauxite from being the cheapest to the most expensive worldwide.
The cheapest price was not the fairest price. We had the cheapest bauxite in 1973 at around $130 million in today's world, and the current projection of $5 million is indicative of corruption. Manley's logic was sound. The price of bauxite cannot be set by companies because the price should reflect all the costs associated with mining, and the companies choose to ignore these considerable expenses. There's a term for this activity: exploitation. So, the introduction of the socialist levy resulted in revenues increasing over ninefold and the mining companies departing to exploit other countries. Fast forward to the current mining agreements, and the latest projection is just $5 million. That is exploitation on an epic scale. So it is clear to me who the real villains are, and the worst mob in our short history occupy Parliament right now.
It was Michael Manley-led government who, after all, took on the transnational bauxite companies and imposed the 1974 bauxite levy.
Manley had morals and balls, qualities that left Parliament with him, so he took a stand. Unfortunately, many African countries are similar to current-day Jamaica, so the theft of their resources, the diamonds, gold, cobalt, copper, nickel, etc., will continue until the people wake up or another Traore rises. So, Jamaican bauxite has been made cheap again. How cheap? Well, it is fucking free. Somehow, none of the 4 foreign-owned mining companies pay the levy, and a $5 million projection is actually a payment towards a $35 million debt owed by the company Windalco. We've been abused, but it gets actually much worse. This current mob, who tripled their pay, connived with the British company Noranda to lie in court to overturn an injunction to allow them to expand their destruction. Check the links in the description for the details of this treasonous deception, but without a doubt the government has overstepped the mark.
To a whopping US 180 million in 1974.
50 years ago, we received the equivalent of $1,200 million. But the evidence suggests that we haven't received a cent in years. Now that can't be right. Let me know in the comments what you think should be done. My request for an investigation by MOCA went unanswered, and there's a petition in the description calling for their action, so if you agree, please sign it. However, I would like to see a National Day of Protest action.